Hey there, good people. It's Rick Lewis here with my series of 21 days in the life of a professional speaker. I am on day 11 today. Tomorrow, day 12, is my first travel day. And then day 13 will be my first presentation day. And leading up to that, I'm leaving tomorrow morning, so I'm on the cusp of having to be all completely ready for at least this first presentation. So here's what it looks like coming up. So you can see what I've done is I've outlined the, in orange, those are my travel days. The pink outlined days are presentation delivery days. And then the blue solid day is my 1.5 days at home in the middle of this 11-day period. So that's going to be super busy. What I'm doing tonight before leaving tomorrow morning is I'm finishing my PowerPoint deck. I don't like doing PowerPoint decks for a couple of reasons. I get really nervous because what a PowerPoint deck represents is me locking in basically the structure or the script for my keynote. I like to meet an audience before I decide on everything I'm going to say. Now, this advice I'm giving you may be totally counter to what you could hear from other professional speakers or other people who are speaking coaches who I'm imagining are likely giving the advice, some of them anyway, to script your presentation right down to the T so you know exactly what you're going to say and you know exactly how you're going to deliver each line. I don't like that. Mostly because when I get in front of an audience, there's something that happens when I actually see people in person and I start talking and I get to see how they're responding, what they're responding to, what they're lighting up about. And so when I go to create a PowerPoint deck, I get nervous. And I have my ways over many years that I've come to deal with how to use a presentation deck. And so here are the things I want to share with you for you to consider, and then you're going to have to make your own decision. But first, I recommend you don't put a lot of words on your PowerPoint deck. Now, the reason for this is with photos, what photos do is they help tell a story. And your keynote itself should be grounded in story touch points, stories that you're going to tell, that you're going to relate, that actually exemplify what you're speaking about, that make the point for you. So I use pictures because pictures get people in a story frame of mind, picturing things. And then in addition, you're going to be creating pictures with your words by the way you're telling your stories. If you put a lot of words up on a slide, this does a couple of things. One, it gets people into their head. So they start looking at the words and they may be trying to see the words, especially, and I see this all the time, if you put a ton of words up on a slide deck and they're tiny little words and people are squinting trying to read them and wondering how important is this information? Do I need to remember this? Should I be writing this down? What if I can't read everything that's on there? As soon as you put words up on a slide deck, you're pulling people out of the moment. You're pulling them away from being present with you and the general narrative of your storytelling, and you're getting them up into your heads. The other reason I don't put a lot of words is because I like to use a PowerPoint deck as kind of a general structure for my path that I'm going to navigate as I'm unfolding the narrative of the keynote. If I put pictures up there that are placeholders for me to remember and be aware of basically where I want to go, if it becomes clear in the moment and the flow of the presentation and the way the audience is responding that I actually need to skip a story or add something else in, which I do frequently. I will frequently modify my path based on what's happening between me and the audience. And I would go as far to suggest that if you are able to perfectly stick to a script while you're in front of an audience, you've missed the boat, because you should be adapting and adjusting and looking at your audience and what they're jiving on and what they might not be getting, or also where it bogs down. So if you're speaking and then you find yourself starting to rush through something because it feels as though you're losing their attention, or they might not be so interested in this, if you have slides with photos, maybe some infographics, but photos are even better, you can advance through a photo and just skip and go to the next one. And people are just going to think that's how you planned it. The photo is theirs, some kind of placeholder or mood representation of some kind. But you can just move forward. And that gives me a lot more latitude, more easily and with less confusion on the part of the audience, to skip through slides if I need to, or to linger on a slide. So fewer words on your slide deck. It doesn't really matter how many slides you have, but if you have so many slides that you're having trouble keeping track of where you are, or you need to advance the slides and the clicker isn't working so well, I've had this happen. Always test your clicker before you start the presentation. Super, super important. Go up and down, all the way forward and back through your slide deck. Make sure the slides are presenting properly on site. Of course, you're going to do that here at home before you leave when you create the deck. And then you're going to test it when you get there and make sure the clicker is working. Because if you have a ton of slides and the clicker remote is having difficulty with the forwarding and the advancing because the connection isn't so good with the computer, or the batteries aren't fresh and new, which sometimes happens. You should always have fresh batteries in your clicker. All of that's going to be more problematic if you have more slides, and super problematic if you have a lot of text on your slides. So I go in a 90-minute presentation, which I'm doing quite a bit of lately, I might have 60 slides. And I don't know exactly what that comes out to, how many slides per minute, but obviously that's a fair number of slides. A lot more than that, you have to feel it out. And it depends what kind of presentation you're doing, what kind of information you need to display. But that number of slides helps me just measure the beats of my narrative, keeps me on track if I decide to take a little bit of a detour and then I need to know, okay, where am I? I can just advance to the next slide, and each of those slides represents a key point I want to make, a story I want to tell. So that is your slide deck. Try to use, if you can, when you're designing your deck, try to use imagery, photos, graphics that are similar in nature. If you have stuff that you're grabbing from Unsplash and then other things you're getting off of other free photo sites, or you're using AI generated images or cartoon stuff, it can tend to feel a bit disjointed for the audience, like your presentation is a bit fragmented rather than branded together so that they get the tone, the feel, the mood of what you're presenting, and the graphics and the imagery have a similar tone and mood, and it has some continuity throughout. So that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm finalizing my deck. And then often what a client will want is for you to send the deck in advance so they can integrate it into a master deck for things that are happening before and after you, and during the agenda of a day, which is perfectly reasonable. I usually try myself to send that 1 or 2 days prior to departure. Sometimes the production team, the AV operator, and the client will be okay with you bringing your deck on a thumb drive and just handing it to them there on site. That's what I prefer most of all, because the closer I get to an event, The nearer I am in proximity to when it's happening, the more I'm thinking about the presentation, the more I'm thinking about the audience, and I start getting inspired, especially when I travel. Once I'm on the plane and I'm moving through travel spaces, my juices start flowing. I start thinking about the upcoming presentation, and I start getting ideas for ways I can speak, ways I can make it relevant to the audience and customize what I'm saying. And so if I already got set my deck ahead of time, there's nothing I can do. I've got the deck in place. I mean, I can make some minor modifications on the fly, but if there's some more substantive things I want to include or exclude, it just gives me more time to do that on the fly right up as I'm approaching the presentation. Now, this is individual preferences for any speaker. I'm sure there are speakers who do it much differently. There are probably some who finish their keynote and deck a week or two in advance, lock it in, and don't think about it until they're on stage. Perhaps I'm not sure about that, but those are things for you to consider and think about. You can kind of do it whatever way works for you. I hope some of the information I'm providing gives you a sense of what you're dealing with in terms of how you're going to have to be interfacing with the client and the production team and the flow of your presentation. It gives you some things to think about. And that's it for day 11. Tomorrow, I will be filming and coming to you from somewhere on the road. And I'm flying to Seattle, connecting through Seattle, then going to Spokane, and then driving to a town called Coeur d'Alene. And I'll be at the Coeur d'Alene result. Hopefully it'll be a Coeur d'Alene result, a great result. I'll be at the Coeur d'Alene Resort presenting there 2 days from now. Tomorrow's the travel day. That's it. I hope that's helpful and useful to you if you are needing to present at a presentation yourself and need to create a slide deck. And tomorrow I will see you from the road on day 12. Thanks for watching. And I just want to give a shout out to my friend Al, who has been following along. He's one of my early subscribers since this channel is brand new. He's been following along, giving me lots of encouragement and appreciation. And I just want to say I appreciate you. Thank you very much for watching. These are for you if no one else is watching and getting any value out of them. And I wish you the best. Take care.